Hello and welcome to episode 249 of the Casual Try Hard podcast. I'm Brian,
And I'm James.
and Wizards with the immortal words "can't stop, won't stop."
Yeah.
We are. I don't get it.
Oh, don't worry about it.
With the are sending us yet another set. Like I think this is our second set announcement in like
2 days.
the same week. In 2 days, they like spoiled some cards, and now they're like, "Hey, you want us to spoil more cards for another thing?"
Yeah, really weird timing. The Marvel announcement, like right before they're supposed to be starting, like the what you call it, the mechanics for Lost Caverns of Ixalan. So
I
strange.
would like to point out that I wasn't thinking about the Marvel announcement. I was thinking about the Fallout previews. I had forgot that Marvel was announced yesterday.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Okay, so yeah, 3. So actually, technically, you had the Doctor Who actual release, the Fallout announcement, the Marvel pre-announcement, and Ixalan mechanics.
I'm going to steal James's thunder. If you want to hear our thoughts on many of these Universes Beyond things, you should check out one of the most magic-focused pre-shows in the history of pre-shows.
Oh, this pre-show was a banger. You patrons are, you're in for a treat, or you were in for a treat.
Yeah, so it is, go hit us up on Patreon if you want to get access to that, because it was pretty good.
It was good. Yeah, so we're doing things a little bit out of order here. If you want to support the show, there's 2 ways you can do it. The first is with our TCG Player affiliate link. If you want to purchase some MTG singles or sealed product or whatever, you guys are going to do that anyway. Go to CasualTryHard.com/TCG. That's our TCG Player affiliate link. Head on over to TCG Player, buy anything that you would normally be buying, and we'll get a cut of that. Help keep the show going. We'd really appreciate it if you did that for us. If you're looking to support us more directly, don't want to shop on TCG Player, but still want to support the show, if you appreciate the work that we do and you want to give back to us a little bit, you can go to patreon.com/CasualTryHardMTG. You can chip a couple bucks in. Like Brian said, you get access to our pre-show, and this week's was a good one. You're welcome. You also get access to my show notes, so you kind of get a sneak peek about what this week's episode's going to be about. And when I have stuff to send out, I send it to our patrons. Send me your address when you sign up, and I'll put you on my mailing list, and when I got swag to send out, I will make sure you get some.
Yeah. If you want to reach out to us on social media, Facebook, Discord, X. Email, you can do that. All those links are in the description. Mm-hmm. Perhaps send us a picture of your favorite bridge.
Ooh,
the patrons know.
That's right.
though I thought we had briefly talked about ideas for Patreon givebacks,
mm-hmm.
and it was bridge based. Again, you got to be in the pre-show to know. But I thought of your favorite bridge, from like the Syracuse area, as a magic card could be Elite Headhunter.
Ooh, perfect. Yes, very good.
So there you go. So we knew there was a new set, a new Premier Standard set, as opposed to Universes Beyond, Universes Around.
Yeah. Kind of adjacent to.
Yeah, random universes appearing.
Right.
It's like we're in like either like Loki or Doctor Strange.
Random multiverses.
Like we're getting like thrown into like random universes. This is basically what we have. We're now getting thrown into the Ixalan universe.
Ooh.
Yeah, and so we've got Lost Caves of Ixalan set mechanics.
Like we do for every major set release, and sometimes the minor ones, not all the time, but we like to go over the mechanics of the set prior to our set review episode. That way you guys know what we're talking about when we reference the mechanics, and those shows tend to go long, so we try and cut this little section of it out give it to you guys ahead of time, so that we don't have to go over it during our sit review episode, but also so you have an idea of what's going on when you start seeing spoilers floating around the internet.
Yeah, so we have another modern Magic set. So we have double face cards, we have game objects galore, all kinds of things. So the first thing is craft. How this didn't make it into Fallout, I do not know. And it is a transforming mechanic. And it's on double face cards, so it allows you to pay some cost, eat some type of permanent or some type of like card with ability on the battlefield, and then transform your transform card.
Yeah.
It reminded me of like Meld, where you're taking multiple game objects, or like Mutate, where you're taking multiple game objects and kind of like eggs meet basket kind of situation.
Yeah, flavorfully it's the same. There are a couple ways where this differs. And that's because with the craft, I think it's all of the cards, but I know some of them. You can craft cards that are in your graveyard also.
Okay, I hadn't realized that.
Yeah, so if there's actually I have some. I should be a better host here. I have some visual aids. With one of the cards that they use to describe craft here is the Enigma Jewel. It's a blue mana for a legendary artifact. It enters the battlefield tapped. You can tap it to add colorless, and spend this mana only to activate abilities, and it has craft. It says craft with 4 or more non-lands with activated abilities, with a cost of 8 in a blue. So you pay 8 in a blue, you exile this artifact, exile 4 or more from among other permanents you control or cards in your graveyard.
I had missed the graveyard text.
Yeah, and then you return this transformed under its owner's control, and you do this as a sorcery. The other card that was craft that they showed off also said graveyard, but I don't think they specified whether all craft can use the graveyard or not.
Gotcha.
So it's either that you control or are in the graveyard.
Yeah, so this is, well, the fact that you can get some out of your graveyard means that those cards have probably already like done their thing, or you put them there for some sort of value.
Yep.
So that is good.
Yep. The other thing to note is that this one just says non-lands. The other one says artifacts. But you can use tokens to craft. But some cards, the backside specifically refers to the cards that you crafted with, like this one. Transforms into Locus of Enlightenment, and it says Locus of Enlightenment has each activated ability of the exiled cards used to craft it. You can activate each of those abilities once each turn, and whenever you activate an ability that isn't a mana ability, copy it, and you can choose new targets for the copy. If you use a token to craft with, as soon as the token changes zones, it ceases to exist. Poof, gone. Which means...
so it doesn't get to imprint its abilities.
Yeah, this won't see it. So if you crafted a food or a treasure or whatever, this would not know.
Gotcha. Would not see it.
Yep.
This is interesting. It kind of feels like, I could be wrong, it kind of gives like a limited mechanic vibe. Like
maybe. I mean, we'll have to see how it plays. It's always tough when you like sink a whole bunch of resources into one thing, because you can just end up getting blown out.
I still remember being at a GP and sitting beside this kid, and this guy had a Nicobolus out. And he's like, I'm going to transform the Nicobolus. And the kid's like, tap your mana.
Yeah.
And the guy taps his mana, and he's like, kill the Nicobolus.
Yeah.
Like, you can't tap 7 mana into the face of your opponent's open mana, my friend.
Right.
Can't do it.
Yep.
Yeah, I can't even tap 9. Disenchant.
Yeah.
No. Or I guess you let it flip, because then it gets rid of all the permanents too. Because like,
right.
There's no colon. So like, are you paying like the craft with? That's like all the cost. So you pay the 9 and exile as the cost. So you could like kill it in response because the permanents are gone.
The colon is after exiling. The colon is between. It's right before return this card transformed under its owner's control.
Oh, they just like took all the like the reminders text is actually the rules text?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
okay.
because all craft does is transform it.
Oh,
right?
Okay.
So the rules text is reminder text or whatever. But yeah, the colon is there, and it's after you exile.
I was looking up with craft with 4 or more non-land artifacts with activated abilities 8.
Right.
Like thinking that should be like, but.
Right.
But okay.
Yeah, weird. Oddly templated, but.
Yes. And then we have transforming double face cards like we had in the last in the last time we went to Ixalan.
Yeah, I mean, we've had transforming double face cards a few times, but yes, specifically last Ixalan, we had transforming double faced cards in the exact way that we're having them now. There's a couple different ways they can do transforming double faced cards. We had like day night, right? They're transforming double faced cards. We've had
the Praetors,
the Praetors,
the sagas.
Yep, that have a like an activated ability or a triggered ability that flips them. These all are triggered abilities. I think they showed 2 of them. The 2 that they showed are both reprints from the last time we were at Ixalan.
Yes.
The one I have on the screen here is Treasure Map. It's a reprint from last time. It saw a bunch of play last time. It was in standard.
Yeah.
2 mana. You can pay a mana and tap it and scry 1. You put a counter on it, and then if there are 3 or more counters on it, you remove those counters and make 3 treasure tokens and transform this thing. And it flips into Treasure Cove, which taps for colorless, or you can sacrifice it, tap it, sacrifice a treasure to draw a
card. It feels weird. Like this feels like a card that like would be an uncommon now.
I know, right?
On some, it's like it's still a rare, and I was like, really?
Yeah, I mean, how does this compare with like Reckoner Bankbuster?
Yeah, like Bankbuster's way better.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, I mean they kind of do the same thing. And what was the one before Bankbuster? We had like another one of these cards right before that.
Maze Mind Tome?
Yeah, Maze Mind Tome. So like, in light of what we have had previously, like both of those I think are better than Treasure Cove here.
Yeah.
The other one that was previewed was Growing Rights of Ixalan, which is I guess a pretty good reprint. That was getting kind of expensive.
Yes. Gaia's Cradle at home is still Gaia's Cradle.
Correct. I'm pretty sure in the article they said that all of the transforming double face cards in this set are going to be this format where there's something on the front and then a land on the back.
Yeah, that's how it had been before.
Yeah. Well, that's how they were in Ixalan, but they said they're keeping with that.
For back faces that are lands, they actually say for back faces that are lands.
Oh, okay.
So the map inspired to transforming a permanent into a land isn't the same thing as playing a land. Treasure Cove does it enter the battlefield. Okay, yeah. I was trying to see, but they just say for back faces that are lands. So it implies that there are back faces that
Well, the gods aren't lands on the back, right? But they're a little bit different than these cards.
Yeah. Yes.
So whatever that means. I guess we'll find out during previews.
Whatever. Yeah, we'll find out in regular spoiler season.
Yep.
Then we have like Descend, which is kind of a mix between Delirium and like Threshold.
Yeah, this one's kind of weird because the mechanics kind of like bifurcated. There's like 2 parts in it that almost do different things. The first part is just Descend, and it cares about how many permanents are put into a graveyard from anywhere. They can be milled, discarded from the battlefield, whatever. The card we have to reference here about how Descend works is the Myco Tyrant. It's 1 black-green for a star legendary creature Elder Fungus. It has trample, and the power and toughness are each equal to the number of creatures you control that are fungi and or saplings. And then at the beginning of your end step, create X11 black fungus creature tokens with this creature can't block, where X is the number of times you descended this turn. And this says you descend each time a permanent is put in your graveyard from anywhere.
Yes. So, like, it's weird that they care, like, but on one hand, it's like, I care how many permanents go into your graveyard.
Mm-hmm.
And then there are other cards that, like, seem to care about how many cards are already there.
So that's the other half of this mechanic. A couple notes on this, like, first part of the mechanic, though, just like basic Descend. Number one is the cards just have to touch your graveyard. It doesn't matter if they stay there or not. So, like, if a card goes to the graveyard and then goes back to the battlefield, or gets shuffled into your library, or goes to your hand, or gets exiled, as long as it touches the graveyard, it counts towards Descend.
But it has to
touch.
have gone into the graveyard and then be exiled. Like a rest in peace
is a
you
replacement
never have a
effect.
graveyard.
Right.
Yes.
Leyline is a replacement effect. It exiles instead.
Yes.
But something like if you discard Emrakul, it gets shuffled into your library.
It went there. It descended to your library.
Same thing with tokens. Tokens will touch your graveyard and then poof. So they will still count for Descend. Right.
Yes.
The other part of Descend, more Descend, is there's some Descend cards that have a number with them, and some Descend cards that say Fathomless.
Okay.
So these ones work more like Threshold, where they care about a number of permanent cards in your graveyard. And I don't believe that these had to have gone there all in one turn. One of the examples we have here is Didact. That's a weird name. Didact Echo. It's 4 and a blue for a 3/2 Spirit Cleric. When it enters the battlefield, you draw a card, and this has Descend 4. And it has flying as long as there are 4 or more permanent cards in your graveyard. So this is more like Threshold, where it cares about the cards in your, like a number of cards in your graveyard.
Okay. So it's a didact, like didactic.
Oh, okay.
A didactic person, one over inclined to instruct others.
Oh, all right. See, expanding my vocabulary.
There you go.
Yeah. Did not know.
I didn't know didact was a real word, but there we are.
Now we know.
Do.
That's right. And then Fathomless is another variant of Descend. And we have a card here as an example. This is Song of Stupefaction. I know that's a word.
Yes.
This is 1 and a blue for an aura. It enchants a creature or vehicle. And when Song of Stupefaction enters the battlefield, you may mill 2 cards. And it has Fathomless Descent. Enchanted permanent gets -X, -O, where X is the number of permanent cards in your graveyard. So this doesn't care about a specific number, it wants to count the number. So
remember,
go ahead.
There was a card from Throne of Eldraine that did this, was get -X for just the number of cards in your graveyard, or in your opponent's graveyard.
Yeah. I think we had one that cared about like instants and sorceries too.
Probably.
So this is one that cares about permanents. But like Descend is weird though, because there's basically 3 versions of the mechanic. and they all kind of do different things. Like base descend only cares about things that touch your graveyard this turn.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's like descend with the number, which is somewhere between like delirium and threshold. And then fathomless descent is like a whole nother version that cares about the specific number.
Yeah, it's weird. It feels like they didn't have enough to make like enough ideas that were new to make one whole mechanic, and they didn't want to just like take like all the, like the throne cards that cared about cards in your opponent's graveyard.
Yeah.
And just be like, well, let's make it cards in your graveyard.
Yeah.
Or permanents in your graveyard. So
it's kind of weird though,
mush
because
these three together.
Like traditionally, we've had plenty of cards that cared about these things. Like Threshold was a mechanic for multiple sets.
It is the like the threshold version, the descend with a number.
Yeah.
Descend 4, descend 8. Is that the only like?
That's all that was called out in the article. I don't know if there's more or not.
Yeah, that's weird that they would just do 4 and 8. But remember Undergrowth?
Yeah.
Like that mechanic was like totally unworkable even in limited.
Yes.
Because to just limit it to creatures,
right,
didn't work. Like, but how often do you get lands in your graveyard? How often are you like sacrificing artifacts or enchantments like in limited? And these type of mechanics don't usually work in like standard.
Well, so
like,
this also works with like a self-mill component though. And
it does.
Like this Song of Stupefaction here has self-mill built into it.
Mm-hmm. But like, think about like how many threshold cards get played anywhere. It's Cabal Ritual.
Yeah.
And then like none of the Undergrowth cards got played.
Right.
These at least seem to like work on a baseline.
Yeah.
Even if they don't have their descend number.
Mm-hmm.
And like the ones that care about something going in are all like real cards.
Mm-hmm.
That do a thing.
I mean, we're going to talk about another mechanic in not next, but in a minute, that kind of fuels descend also though. Like Explorer's coming back.
Okay.
And
that is good.
Like Explore will fuel. We can do these out of order. Let's do Explore next.
Sure, we can do whatever we want.
I gotta skip ahead for a second here.
You write the show notes, so you get to do whatever you want.
I can do whatever I want. Explorer is coming back for people that played during Last Ixalan. This is a returning mechanic. When something explores, you reveal the top card of your library. If it's a land, you can put that card into your hand, so kind of draw a card. And if it's not a land, whatever explored gets a +1/+1 counter, and then you get to choose whether to leave that card on top of your library or put it in your graveyard. So if you are putting that explored card in your graveyard, that could fuel Descend, which would make this a little bit easier to do in limited. Like I guess when Undergrowth was in limited, you had Surveil.
Yeah.
Which did this, so maybe not, but
yeah, they you kind of have to pair like the like if blue black or like if blue black green are the kind of Descend colors.
Yeah.
Then also in blue black and green or like green black and another color, you have to put like another mechanic to like make it work.
Yeah.
And so that's like explore it like in the limited environment.
Like thinking back to limited though, Explore seemed to play better in general than Surveil did. And
like the fact that it make creatures bigger is good.
Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe because Explore is maybe a little bit stronger than, or the way it was implemented was stronger than Surveil.
Yeah, it was stronger.
Maybe that's why I have the feeling that it will work better with Descend, but who knows?
I mean, you were also Wild Growth Walker and a Jade Light Ranger guy.
Oh, I can't wait to cast Wild Growth. I'm sure it's going to be awful because that card is like nowhere near 2023 power level, but I can't wait to cast my little buddy again.
Yeah. I'm wondering like what like 2023 Jade Light Ranger is, like explore.
Oh, we have it already.
Explore.
I didn't put it in the notes because I figured we'd talk about it in the in the set review episode.
Was it in the list of things?
It was one of the cards that was spoiled today.
Okay, I did not see it.
X and a green for a 1/1. When it ATBs, explore X times.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Flip the whole thing over.
All of it. Yep.
Okay. Interesting.
Yep.
Now, for like weird cascade.
Well, hang on. Before we do that,
okay, sorry.
There's kind of like we had multiple facets to descend. There's one more little wrinkle to explore here, and that's that we're getting a new game object. Are you super excited for your new game object?
I mean, there was a my black green cube archetype is now just game objects.
Yeah.
So I need a new one.
So we're getting map tokens. Map tokens are an artifact token, food, clues, blood, whatever. And you pay 1, tap it, and sacrifice it, and target creature you control explores at sorcery speed. So
it doesn't have to be the creature that made the map. It can just be anyone gets to explore. Okay.
Well, I mean, I don't know that creatures are going to make maps. They could be on instants or sorceries or lands or
Water Wind Scout is a 2 and a blue 2/2 flyer.
Mm-hmm.
That when it enters the battlefield, create a map token.
Creates a map. Okay.
So there's at least one creature. That does it. So okay, that's interesting. Like, is it? I don't think it's as good as a blood.
I don't know. It probably depends on how you build it, because bloods didn't have the ability to make your creatures better for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you needed another outlet to make the creature better. Maps kind of do it on their own, and this isn't as strong as looting because you're making a decision with one card instead of like everything that's in your hand.
Well, it's rummage. Bloods are rummaging.
Well, yeah, sorry, rummage.
Yeah, but like blood was like flood insurance, and this kind of like is hit your land drops. Like, they do different things. Like, they're better at different spots, and then like the counter kind of mitigates some of the downside. Where like blood like made it so you can't flood ever.
That's true.
Where maps are gonna like,
I mean, this is kind of gonna do the same thing though, because like you don't have to spend your draw step on the land, and you're guaranteed that your next card isn't going to be a land if you're flooding.
Yeah, fair. Okay.
Kind of, sort of.
I don't know. It'll be interesting how it plays out. It might also matter like if they like print a Blood Tithe Harvester.
Yeah, or a Wild Growth Walker. Yeah.
Yeah, something that like really goes off for mapping.
Well, for exploring, yeah.
Yeah. Well, we knew map was a thing because what's his name? Oko's kid was here on an adventure.
What's the map have to do with that?
He's a white creature, and his adventure is green, and it's like create like 2 map tokens or 3 map tokens.
Oh, okay.
Something like that.
I guess I didn't remember that.
Yeah, it was like the first card that they like spoiled for the set was like, hey,
make maps.
Yeah, Oko's here, make a map. Kind of like, Oko, what's a food?
Yeah.
And now it's like, make a map.
Yeah.
I
don't know. I remember Explore like really being. Maybe it was just because I was playing black green, and that was at the time a pretty overpowered deck. But I remember Explore playing really well. Like, Explore just kind of fixed everything that you did forever.
Yeah, like it's if the creatures are good, it's like a good mid-range mechanic.
Yeah.
Because, right, like, it makes your creatures bigger. It gets you to the stuff that it gives you some selection.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want this card, go to the graveyard. Okay, land, go to my hand.
Yeah.
Right, and you get a counter or whatever. So, like, it gives you some selection. But, I know it's hard because, like, in my head, like, I think about blood being useful. I guess mainly because of blood type harvester.
Yeah.
And the Voldaren Epicure. Right, like I don't know. It was just because those cards are like 11s.
Yeah.
And they just happen, and if they're 11, if they also have like a map on them, like if they have the same text but it's map,
so
are you like, oh?
I think where you may be, I don't want to say confused, but maybe getting tripped up a little bit, is that both of those cards were good without blood, and like if you never used the blood, you still wanted to see both of those cards.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. Like if those cards made some different game object, like or not no game object at all,
right?
Like they were still good.
Yeah.
So like it might just be that they were good and they happened to make a blood, as opposed to they were good because of blood.
Yeah.
But like, I don't think that you would. I know you wouldn't play a gold 3/2 no text.
Right.
Right. So like the fact that like it was a 3/2 that also doubled as a removal spell.
I mean, you right, but like it being a removal spell, like you would pay a 2-mana 3/2 that's a removal spell that made, like if the blood had no text, if it made a blood and the blood had no text, you would still play Blood Tithe Harvester.
Yes, that's what I mean. Like, is it like if they make Blood Tithe Explorer and he makes a map and has all the same text, I think that card is equally as good.
I think it's better.
Okay.
I think maps are stronger than blood. I mean, we'll see when we play with them, but
okay.
I think like 1-for-1, a map is better than a blood.
Okay.
So, but it, like you said, it depends on what the surrounding creatures are like. Whether we get a map Tithe Harvester or Merfolk Epicure or a Wild Growth Harvester or some combination thereof.
Yeah. All right, now we have Knockoff Cascade.
Now we have Knockoff Cascade.
We have Discover. So this is Discover and then a number. And that number lets you exile cards from the top of your library until you hit a non-land with mana value equal to or less than the number. So it's very much like Cascade, except it seems to be the things have to ETB, have to enter the battlefield.
So far, the ones that we've seen have to ETB. So it's not a cast trigger.
It's not a cast, which is a big difference. Because I just kept reading this going like, isn't this just Cascade with like a different name? But I will point out that if you hit a card with mana value 3 or less and you don't want to cast it, you can put it in your hand.
Yeah.
Where Cascade, you would exile it.
Correct. There are a couple other differences as well. Discover specifically calls out mana value.
It says mana cost.
Mana value. Exile cards from the top of your library until you exile a non-land card with mana value 3 or less. I believe that makes it so you can't hit free cards.
Okay, I'm not. Do they?
Like, because they don't have a mana value. They have a CMC, which is 0, but they don't have a mana value, so I don't think you can hit them.
Okay, I was trying to Google it and I didn't find anything before the show.
I believe that's the case. We'll have to wait for the comp rules to come out to know for sure, but I believe that's the case. There is one more thing that the article specifically calls out that the card does not. So again, I think we're going to need to wait for the comp rules on this as well. But it says in the article that you stop flipping cards when you find one with mana value equal to or less than the Discover number. And then the spell you cast must also be equal to or less than the mana value. So they said you can't hit an expensive adventure.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I had not read that closely enough. So yeah, you can't like
Yeah, it says...
They use Picnic Ruiner. So Picnic Ruiner has a mana value of 2, and then you'd be allowed to cast the adventure if it were 3 or less, but it's 4. So Picnic Ruiner is 1 in a red for a 2/2, and then Stolen Goods is 3 and a green, so it's 4.
Yeah.
So you wouldn't be able to cast the 4. So it's worded a little bit differently than Cascade.
Yeah, well, I mean, like that part of it, it doesn't say that on the card here. Like in the reminder text on the card, the way it's written on the card, I would say you could cast the adventure, but that it's specifically called out in the article. So I think we have to wait for the comp rules.
Yeah, because the way it is written is like you can cast a non-land card, and then usually you get like the choice, because if you look at Invasion of Allura, you can cast a card mana value 4 or less, but then you could cast the more expensive side of the adventure.
Right.
So weird.
Yeah. So I think we need some clarification on this guy, which I'm sure we'll get, but just wanted to call that out. It is a little bit different than Cascade.
I am interested in if they're going to have a 3 mana like Discover 2 guy. Because I don't know if you've been following what the hottest new deck in Modern is.
Scam?
Beans.
Beans? All beans all the time?
It's an Aspiring Spike deck that has been doing really well. It is 4 Up the Beanstalks, 4 Shardless Agents, 4 Bloodbraid Elves.
Okay.
So the only thing Shardless can cascade into is beans. The only thing Bloodbraid cascades into is Teferi, Shardless, or Beans.
Oh.
And then you just play Fury, Solitude, and Leyline Binding.
Yep.
And so, like, if that's good enough for Modern, if something like this is probably a like knockoff, we don't have the pitch elementals version of this with Leyline Bind and a couple other big cards, is probably good enough for Pioneer.
Yeah.
Where you just like bury your opponent. Oh, you have a Thoughtseize. That's cute. We're just gonna like draw 45 cards this game.
Right.
That does not matter. So that was like, and so Bloodbraid Elf is an uncommon gold.
Was banned in Modern for years.
Was a 3/2 with haste.
Yep.
This is a single color 2 red common. There's a 3/2 with no haste.
Right.
Now, granted, it is the Discover is worse than Cascade, but it's a whole lot of Bloodbraid Elf at common. What are the uncommons and rares going to look like of this mechanic?
I mean, like
they showed us one.
The haste on Bloodbraid Elf was kind of a big deal.
It was,
but
still is.
Yeah, but like the reason you played Bloodbraid Elf was because it was a threat and a removal spell, or a threat and a hand disruption spell, or a threat and a Liliana, and this is very much still a threat and a removal spell, or a threat and hand disruption, or a threat and Liliana.
I mean, as we've kind of talked about with these cards that reduce cost, right? We've seen a lot of them, right? Like you would pay 4 mana for a 3/2 that draws a card in limited, at least, right? And in constructed, you would pay 4 mana for a 3/2 that draws a card and then casts it.
Oh yeah.
And you can think every mana that you spent casting that spell is mana you can kind of take off of Appraiser.
Right.
Right? Like if you hit a 3-drop and cast it, you paid 1 mana for a 3/2, and then you got a Lily.
Also, don't forget that in the last set we had Celebrate.
Oh yeah, we're seeing multiple things on the battlefield to trigger Celebrate.
Yeah.
Right, like this derpy common into the 3 mana 4/4 haste guy that if he celebrates into a dragon. That's pretty good.
Yeah, I would say so.
Or yeah. So, and anything that like they've had like the mechanics of like when you cast your second spell.
Yep.
He is your first and your second spell.
That is true.
So, like this mechanic is like I think it is fixed cascade.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like it's not an automatic 2-for-1 because it can get countered before it gets down.
It's cascaded home.
Right. Yeah, it's cascaded home. But like any number of like cascade spells in standard or pioneer are really good.
Yes.
So these especially the ones that are at, like if they're creatures at higher rarity, they had like a oh gosh. They had another example of I appreciate that they want to like get the word out about stuff, but they like almost melted my phone with Twitter alerts today. I was like, "What are you idiots doing? Stop it!" But they had hit the mother load.
Oh yeah,
which is a sorcery that has discover 10.
Yeah,
and then you get to
make treasure tokens equal to the difference.
Yeah, so like you are always up a minimum of 3 mana because this costs 7. I will hit the mother load and I will cast Ulamog the Ceaseless Hunger.
Perfect.
We did it. I will cast Nivix Mastery, targeting my hit the mother load.
Cool. That's gross.
Yes. Yeah, it is. I hadn't seen the lands.
The caves?
Yeah, I hadn't seen any of those. So, like, I'm interested for this mechanic, but I think it's one of those things where, like, much like, was it Yawgmoth's Bargain was the fixed Necropotence, and the card was still busted, right? Like, these are probably not Cascade busted, but they might be, like, Pioneer Cascade busted, where you might be able to do stuff.
Yeah.
Where it gets around some of the, if you can't cast free spells, if you can't, like, cast the big half of something, you can't, like, Valky flip into Tybalt. Right. All for the good, I guess.
Yeah.
If I'm not doing it. But like, the fact that they're just a 2-for-1 that knocks mana off of stuff.
Yeah.
And they have to print enough of them that you could like play Waterfalls.
I hope so. I mean, that's just a fun deck to play.
Yeah, so much value. So Waterfalls is you just have a bunch of stuff that cascades, and you just keep cascading into stuff.
Cascade into more cascaders, into more cascaders.
Yeah. And so since you cast it, you could, if there was like a 3 mana Discover 2 card, you could cast Appraiser.
Right. Hit
the 3 mana card. You cast it.
Hit the 2 mana card.
Hit the 2 mana card, and you just like cascade your way down.
Yep.
It seems like they tried to fix this stuff, but it's still just a ton of value.
Yeah, no, it's very good. Well,
if nothing else, it is just value.
I have a feeling that they think they've balanced it correctly, because I don't see how they could print this at common otherwise.
True.
Like, somebody had to look at this and be like, hey, wait a minute. That's most of Bloodbraid Elf, and we're putting it at common. So,
yeah.
We'll see.
I mean, gosh, what is it called? Reality Smasher, and they just made it Charging Monstrosaur like 4 years later at Uncommon. And then we have one more, not a mechanic, but also like not a mechanic.
Yeah, I mean, this is something that a lot of cards already did. We just never had a name for it. Kind of like they keyworded Surveil and keyworded Mill. This is keywording something we already do. There's a lot of cards that will put something onto the battlefield and say at the end of the turn exile it, or if this would go anywhere beside, or if this would be put into the graveyard, exile it instead. Finality the finality counter just does that.
Yeah, it's
just kind of a way to track it.
Yeah. I don't know, it's just weird. Like, we have so many counters for things now.
I mean, it's Arena. You can make a counter for everything if you want to.
This is true. It's like, it doesn't matter. You just, like, Arena takes care of it.
Right.
So.
The card we have an example here is Intrepid Paleontologist. It's 1 and a green for a 2/2 human druid. You can tap it to add 1 mana of any color, or you can pay 2 and exile a card from a graveyard. It says you may cast dinosaur creature spells from among cards you own exiled with Intrepid Paleontologist. If you cast a spell this way, that creature enters the battlefield with a finality counter on it. And if a creature with a finality counter on it would die, exile it instead. So it's kind of like you get to bring it back once, but then it falls apart into nothing and it doesn't exist anymore.
Mm-hmm. Aw. Sorry, little dude.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Yeah.
Like, it is weird though that, like, I don't know how much it helps in paper. I guess like if they have a counter that just says like finality on it or whatever.
Fatality.
Yeah, fatality. Oh, you just have to get like little pictures of like Scorpion's head.
Yeah.
And that'd be your counter.
There you go.
All right, so with all the other stuff you're doing, I need you to get the rights to Scorpion's head, and then
sure,
and then put Casual Try Hard on the back of the little disc.
Yeah,
and then we can have our own counter collection. Yeah, it's fine. Like, it's funny we went from like not having all these counters to very much in like the world of Arena. It's like, hey, Ikoria gives us ability counters. We have oil.
Yeah.
We have all kinds of stuff now. It's like, it doesn't matter.
Well, I also think it's a sign of the times. Kind of alluding to a little bit what we were talking about in the pre-show. If the game as a whole is less competitive and people are just playing for fun and, you know, just sitting around a commander table with their friends, you and I may see it as a downside where it's hard to track and there's a counter on something and nobody remembers what it is. And, oh yeah, it's a finality counter that would have been important had we realized it when it was relevant. But like in a casual game where you're sitting around having a beer, eating pizza, playing Commander or whatever, like that may not always be seen as a bad thing. Like,
I mean, if you're gonna screw up tracking the counter, you also forgot that it had the writer text.
Right.
Exile me when I die.
No, yeah. But what I mean though is like, I remember having this conversation with our LGS owner, like back when all of these changes started happening, about how Magic is kind of about the story, and I don't mean like the lore story. Magic for me has always been about the story that happens before the tournament starts with your friends, or in between rounds, or after the tournament, where you talk about your good beats, your bad beats, you remember your tournaments, whatever. And I think this sort of thing in a casual environment may be something similar to that, where it's, oh yeah, this has this counter, I completely forgot. This crazy thing happens now. And I don't know that everybody sees it as a bad thing. You know what I mean?
I just had a thought.
Yeah, what's that?
Hex Mage.
Remove a counter, yeah.
Or what is the render inert?
Yeah.
Like remove 5 counters for something?
Yeah.
So like it's a way to get around. Or that the new card from Lord of the Rings that like moves counters around. You'd be like, oh, you're gonna kill my thing forever. I'm gonna move the finality counter to this other thing. So now I can reanimate my thing, or it like persists or whatever it's gonna do.
wasn't there a card in War of the Spark that let you eat counters to draw cards?
Oh, yeah, it was blue black and you tapped it.
Yeah, it was like Soul Diviner or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
Was that any kind of counter?
I think.
I think it was just a counter from a permanent.
Yes, I think you are right. So you just remove counter. I know it's blue black and it's soul something. Okay, I should have been more precise with my search. Too many came up. All right, let's try again.
It was from War of the Spark.
Yes. I was like, I'll just put remove counter. There won't be that many. So let's find the sets now. War of the Spark. There we go. Yeah, Soul Diviner.
Yeah.
It is tap, remove a counter from an artifact, land, creature, or planeswalker you control. Draw a card.
Perfect.
Yeah, so there you go. You can just like, or Price of Betrayal. Remove up to 5 counters from target artifact, creature, planeswalker, or opponent.
Mm-hmm.
Can we please just make this a 10 and be 1 mana, please? Please.
Transform target Dark Depths.
Free Merit Lage.
Yeah.
So yeah, like now there's shenanigans you can do to kind of remove that writer.
Yeah.
I feel like they've eroded a lot of stuff in the past. Like I feel like it's a lot of work to be like now like was it Sarah Emissary?
Mm-hmm.
Not Sarah Emissary. The 4 mana one that like lets you cast a card from your graveyard.
Oh yeah.
To like retroactively say they all get
Finality
counters.
Yeah.
Seems like a lot, but I don't know. They've done weirder stuff, I think.
Yeah, I don't know that they've done anything that like widespread though. Like that would be a lot of cards they'd be errataing. And like they tend not to do functional errata, and that would technically be functional errata.
Fair, yeah. As opposed to just like changing a word.
Right.
So yeah. Interesting, but Ultimate doesn't change anything. It's just like an extra thing to track. And maybe you're right. Maybe like people will enjoy having finality counters as opposed to just having to remember it.
Yeah.
But they should bring back glass beads for that one.
For sure.
Every pack should just come back with, come with 1 glass bead.
Like sports cards and bubblegum.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Hey, look, in these play boosters, I know we took a card out from you.
Here's a glass bead.
Here's a glass bead.
Every card arrives damaged from now on.
Hey, at least they tell you up front.
That's right. Don't need glass beads.
It feels like this set, maybe because of like Descend, has like more mechanics than like the normal set.
Well, finality counter is not really a mechanic, and like the map tokens are only mechanic kind adjacent. And then Descend is like 3 mechanics in 1. But,
yeah, so
yeah, I mean Discover is definitely a mechanic, and Craft is definitely a mechanic.
And it's also interesting, like Geological Appraiser is ETB.
Yeah.
But then you have the sorcery that just cascades.
Well, it's not on cast though, right?
It might be on resolution.
Yeah, it says Discover 10, so it's not a cast trigger.
Yeah, but like it's just like
right.
It doesn't have to enter the battlefield; it just has to resolve.
Right. Which
is a big difference.
Mm-hmm.
Is that
resolving is basically entering the battlefield.
Yeah, fair. Is that our splashy red 7-drop that might not ever do anything ever?
Probably.
This feels very much like Apex of Power.
Yeah. Unless you can cast it for free. Is there a way to cast it for free?
Not that I know of.
I mean, cast it
in
for
standard.
Free, get 10 mana is pretty good.
I mean, I guess if you hit it with an Atali.
Yeah.
And then you cascade into an Atraxa.
Oh yeah, that's pretty gross.
And like I did it. I don't know what it was, but I did it.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I think of if you're gonna tell me there was one of these mechanics that was gonna like produce a card that was like busted, I would guess it would be Discover.
Yeah.
That there'd be one Discover card that's just like is just everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Also, like the common Bloodbraid Elf is probably good in Pauper.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like they play like some like sometimes some sketch like Cascade cards.
Mm-hmm.
Like 7 mana Cascade card. It's like this is for like you get to do the thing.
Yeah.
You get to do the thing early and often. Like bury your opponent in cards. Yeah, I do love that. Like it just seems like every set now they're like, I heard you like making artifacts.
Yeah.
Would you like an artifact of some sort?
Maps.
It's like do I? And they're like, you do.
You do.
Trust us, you do. Okay.
We know you got that game objects archetype.
Yeah, you need more game objects. I'm like, how many tokens can be in my cube?
Yeah.
All of them, apparently.
You're going to need like a whole other box for tokens.
Yeah. I was sitting here looking and I was like, and then the Descent guy, whatever it is, the Myco Tyrant.
Yeah.
I was like, he's just like super Slimefoot.
Yes, he is super Slimefoot.
And I'm like, why isn't Slimefoot in my cube? I'm like, he makes a game object? He's a sappy boy?
That's right.
Like, he should totally be in there. But
I mean, Myco Tyrant is a mythic. Slimefoot's not a mythic.
Slimefoot's an uncommon, which is why Slimefoot should be in the cube. Like, why have I denied Slimefoot his rightful spot?
Doing Slimefoot dirty.
Yeah, really. Really, like, sorry, Death Sprout. You might have to go. Yeah. Like, Black-Green doesn't need another removal spell. So, with all that, I think we have descended into the Lost Caverns of Ixalan.
Yeah, we got a show.
And we have discovered many a mechanic that we explored without the aid of a map.
And now we're going to put a finality counter on this episode.
Boom! That was unscripted.
It was pretty good.
Yeah, that's pretty good. I was like, crap, what is the other? Oh, I guess we missed
transforming double-faced cards. I don't know how you're going to work that one in.
We have crafted a descent into the Lost Caverns of Ixalan, where we have explored the mechanics and discovered all there was to discover without a map. And now we'll put a finality counter on this adventure.
We're done. Oh, Adventures was last set.
But there's one adventure card in this set.
Okay, you are correct. There is one adventure card in this set, randomly.
The best kind of correct is technically correct.
Yep, you got me. Got him.
With all that, I think we got a show.
We have a show.
So if you want to reach out to us on social media, Facebook, Discord, X, email. Again, really pushing for bridge pictures.
Show me your bridges. Onlybridges.com.
Bridges.com. I don't know how much money we can make. Here's some bridges from Madison County. Here's a covered bridge. Here's an uncovered bridge.
Here's a bridge from Horry County. It doesn't work.
It doesn't work.
It's got no copper left.
Why does it have no teeth? You can find all those links in the description.
Yeah, if you're looking to support the show, there's a couple ways you can do it. The first is with our TCG player affiliate link, CasualTryHard.com/TCG. Head on over there, do your shopping, and you'll be supporting us at the same time. We'd really appreciate it. If you want to support us more directly, Patreon.com/CasualTryHardMTG is where you can do that. You get access to our show notes. You get access to our pre-show. You can even go back in time and listen to the bridge pre-shows if you want to, if you're a masochist.
Yeah.
Patrons also get put on my mailing list for when I have swag to send out, which may be a little late this time. I'm having some issues getting the program that no longer exists running on my computer, so we'll see what happens there. But if any of that sounds good, or if you just really appreciate what we do and you want to give back to us, patreon.com/CasualTryHardMTG. Chip a couple bucks in and really help us out.
All right. So with that, we'll catch you on the internet.
We'll catch you on the internet.